All right, I can almost guarantee that you have songs that have special meaning in your life and that you probably incorporate into the way you live. Welcome to the inaugural Rhymes That Resonate podcast, where we explore blending action and rhymes and self. That's a bar. I am your host, Chris Adami, and I am joined by my good friend, Kyle Fernandez. And a few words about Kyle. He is a ultra athlete, but not only that, ultra husband, ultra father, and just an ultra friend. So I appreciate you taking the time to join me and make this first podcast come to fruition.
No, absolutely, man. I'm absolutely honored and blessed to be on the first episode, and mostly I'm excited to be able to help play a role as you manifest this idea, this thought, this passion into life. And I think that's action above everything, man. I think that's awesome. You're too kind, but I'm incredibly blessed, and I can't wait to just listen to these as they come out.
Man, I appreciate that. Appreciate you as always. And so like we discussed this, and for years, man, you would say, man, your analysis on music, and you wanted to hear my thoughts on it. And I would, yeah, I'm going to, I'm about it. We'll see, all those different things, those never is gonna happen kind of deals, and you've inspired me in many different ways, and so it's only appropriate to have you on. But you just even mentioned something that really resonates with me, already, is action over everything. Can you tell me a little bit about action over everything? What does that mean? Where'd you come up with that?
Yeah, man. So it kind of goes back to one of my favorite books. What's funny is it's actually within arm's reach here because I just recommended it to somebody. But it's Obstacle is the Way by Ryan Holiday. He brought a different view of stoicism into the modern era. So he actually goes into the analysis, but he uses our terminology, our examples, modern day stories, as opposed to the Roman Empire stories and stuff like that. But he uses a quote that inspired the entire book, and it's Marcus Aurelius. I'm probably going to butcher it, but he says the impediment to action becomes the action. So the thing that is in the way becomes the thing that helps you create action. So and the book is just filled with examples after examples, and action over everything to me, last couple of years, heavily this year, has been like, look, dude, it'll buff, you'll figure it out, but doing the thing is the thing. Shoot, it's crazy. This great question, by the way. Even this morning, a guy was like, hey man, like, what are your top recommendations for books on X topic? And I was like, hey, I get that question all the time. I'm like, dude, that's awesome. I appreciate the question. You're looking in the right place. But let me reframe it. The guy that does 500 cold calls and reads one book on sales is going to be eons ahead of the guy that reads 100 books on sales and does next to no cold calls, because he now has context to apply. So just like this podcast, just like the things you've seen me do, they get better with time. That's how the brain works. That's how the body works. That's how these things work. Experience, knowledge, wisdom. And action over everything is like a personal mantra of mine, I feel like, the last couple of years, because it's like, dude, I'm gonna do the thing, and who cares? It may not be what I want it to be right now, but if I put time, energy, effort, dedication towards the thing, I know it's going to improve.
No, that's great. And I think, to that point, it's, if you don't do it, then it doesn't get better. It doesn't become the thing you want in the first place. I forgot what I came across the other day, but it's essentially paralysis by analysis, right? And it's, there are people making, millions of dollars out there who are dumber than you because they didn't overthink themselves out of action. And so I think that's really interesting that, that we're, all of that is kind of a confluence of variables to this conversation right here, right? But I wanted to start with just the topic of the day, or the topics of the day, right? Number one being gratitude, number two being flow state. And this was really inspired by you and some songs that you shared with me, right? So I took a listen, and gave some feedback on like what I interpreted, right? But it's really an opportunity for you to help me understand what you're getting out of these songs, and help anybody who's listening or watching to get something out of these songs, right? And so the first song I'd like to talk about is Miracle by Lecrae and KB. Can you tell us all about that song?
Yeah, so KB and so Lecrae, for those that may not know, is considered kind of like one of the grandfathers, so to speak, or fathers of modern day Christian hip hop. So I'm a faith-based man. I do consume music that is not Christian if it tends to interest me in an area, because as I view music as an art form. So although my default does tend to be faith-based music, there was a long time where it wasn't. So I have catalogs in my brain of all types of artists and all types of stuff.
Yeah.
But still to this day, there's just something to be said about a well-written song of any genre. But when you brought this up, I went kind of back to a space that really resonates with the whole concept of the show, right? Rhymes that resonate. So Lecrae is, like I said, one of the fathers of Christian hip hop. KB is an Atlanta-based artist. I want to say Lecrae is as well. Either way, Atlanta-based gentleman writing faith-based music. And it was at a time where I was in Arizona for military training, and my wife is on the East Coast. We're basically on opposite ends of the country. She's actually pregnant with my second child, her first child. So she's on her own. She's crushing it on her end, and I just felt, how it is, man, being away, us being in the military. So I struggled to be grateful. Like I legitimately struggled, because you feel like you're not doing your job. You feel like things are slipping. You feel like you're not doing what needs to get done, even though you're crushing where you're at, or whatever the case is, right? So, for those that may have never been to Arizona, it has some of the most beautiful sunrises, sunsets, that it literally looks like a screensaver that you're staring at, and you cannot your brain struggles to comprehend how beautiful it looks. So I made it a thing every day, no matter what happened, to just say, God, thank you. That's all. And some of the days that people ask about prayer and faith and all that, and I'm not even going to overcomplicate it. All I had some days legit where it was, I'm going to say thank you. I will say thank you. That's all I got. That's all I got. And I came across this song, and one of the literally 4 lines in, I have the lyrics pulled up ready for the podcast. It says, spend an hour writing 4 words, and the 4 words are in the very next line: look what God did. And that's the 5th line of the song. He says, look what God did. So I was staying at a hotel. I would open the door. I'm on the 3rd floor. I'd have a clear view of Post, because where I was at was higher. I could see the mountain range. I could see the sunrise or set. I could see all the buildings on Post. And I literally every single day had the opportunity. I would throw my headphones in if I could, or I'd even have it on speaker on my phone. That song would be playing. And every day I went outside, that's what I was listening to. And it started with that. And then it just bled into, man, how could I not be grateful? Because he speaks in the same song how he was in a car accident, car flipped 6 times. They said he was going to die. He actually ended up living significantly longer than they said he was going to live. And the song is literally called Miracles. So they're expressing miracles that have happened in their life that they attribute to their faith, obviously. But it was like listening to somebody express gratitude, triggered my need to express gratitude, because I was like, wow, man, that's true. So many things have happened for me that I because you're the same part of your brain that processes anxiety and gratitude. It's the same part of your brain, and you can't process both at the same time. So and this is something I learned later on, but basically once I did learn that, I didn't know that I was literally triggering my brain to be grateful. I was actively and intentionally, without even knowing, triggering gratitude in my brain, and music was the tool that helped me get there.
Wow, man, that's so. There's a few things that just really stand out to me, and I'll try to hit them in order. Number one was you mentioned that separation piece between you and your wife, and how she's crushing it over here, dealing with so much and just being a superwoman, right? While you're in your space, equally doing amazing things, and not being able to make the connection that you're playing both your parts, really speaking to the gratitude piece. It shows that deficit, right? You didn't give yourself the grace to say that you're doing something amazing, and she's doing something amazing. 2 things can be true, right? And so that's interesting. And even listening to the conversation about how it flipped, one thing that really stood out to me was you said, look what God did as your kind of like, orienting factor. And you're standing out looking at this amazing skyline, right? As you're again doing something amazing while other amazing things are happening. Life is being generated on the other side of the country. And like there's a lot of look what God did in that. So like
Yeah.
that's what a connection there, man. So that's those are really cool things. I mean, it's amazing, and I'm glad that you flipped it. But then you mentioned how your gratitude, how you kind of triggered it, right? And so I wrote on Threads the other day, Adam Plussy, right, on Threads, that there was a time where I looked at Private Murphy, or we call it Private Murphy in the military, but Murphy's Law as a thing that existed because that's I learned it in the military. Everything that can go wrong will go wrong. Everything that can happen will happen, and it's usually not good, right? And when I stopped looking at that, and I may not have a point in time that I could recall right now as to when I made that transition, but once I stopped looking at obstacles as obstacles and started looking at them as opportunities, it became a thing where grace and appreciation was there. So it's kind of interesting that you say that, like you can't process both at the same time. And I find that to be true, man. I didn't know the scientific part of it. You know what I mean? So I appreciate that. And you already mentioned a lyric that stands out to you, right? But in certain activities, is there like a bar or two that like crops up and you're like, oh, I need this right now, and it plays back in your head?
Oh man, like just like a one-liner.
A one-liner, maybe
Oh,
a couple of lines, like something outside of the look what God did, because that was already hard.
oh yeah, yeah. No, man. Honestly, I could say it says, "I just remember the mountains moving when we were surrounded. How many times
Mm,
he found us."
mm,
And I'm not like, look, guys, gals, whoever's spiritual thing, because at the end of the day you have to believe in something, hopefully, and if you believe in nothing, then at least you believe in yourself. So it's still like, to me, it's a metaphor of like, and surrounded is what surrounded could be busy, could be tragedy, could be struggle, could be stress. And found us, it doesn't have to be who you do or don't believe in. It could even just be like the light at the end of the tunnel.
mm.
um but what you kind of said is like something that hits, and it's not specifically a bar, but it's a song. Do you remember Fort Minor? And he's like 10% luck, 20%
Yeah, yeah,
skill,
yeah,
right?
yeah. That
Yeah.
was everywhere in like
uh,
early 2000s.
yeah, yeah. So that's kind of the first song that came to my head when you said that. And
Hmm.
what's crazy is I listened to that song because I now understand he was literally giving us the formula for success.
Hmm.
Like early on, like I never added it up. Like I don't know if he hits 100%, but
Hmm.
like um it's that action over everything, right? Like it's
Hmm.
okay, a little bit is luck, a little bit of skill, a little bit is power and will, a little bit is whatever the words he uses. But
Hmm.
that one's like another one that's been hitting lately. And you'll see, like, and you've seen it as like, I commend you, man. Like, you have a lot going on, you decided to do this, so like it's easy to say no, it's easy to put it off, it's easy to, and then you just have to remind yourself like success is it's an algorithm. It's a
Hmm.
math problem. You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
I'm gonna do an endless amount of work, and like when push comes to shove, right? Like, I'm gonna have this mountain of proof, and ideally I get to the end of it, and it's like, good luck to whoever's coming next.
Right. Right. No, you said the specifically with the miracle, right? You said, um, look how many times he found us, right? And like you said, there's an outcome that exists, right? And whether that's like you said, based in faith or the success algorithm or whatnot, right? Like it goes right back to look at what God did, right? Look
Yeah,
at where we're at now. Um, just moves. And last night, sitting down, my dad is helping us out, and we put the couch together, and we sit. My wife and I sat down, and our kids just like happened to run up next to us in our living room. It's like the only room that's like put together right now.
yeah.
And my dad walks in, he looks at us, and he goes, "You know what I see? And I'm a smart ass, so I'm like, two people getting old, and he goes, no, I see a manifestation of what you guys have done, and it's real easy to get used to doing the thing. And I think we talk about this often. It's so easy to do the thing that's in front of you that you forget that, like, there was challenge. There was sometimes loss. There was sometimes trespass. There
Mm,
was sometimes, some feeling of not having it. And so a lyric like "Look how many times you found us" is like when you come through that tunnel and the light is on the other side. Sometimes we're just like, oh, there's light, cool, I gotta find the next tunnel. But
mhm.
it's like when you got to bask in that light sometimes, not to the point where there's conceit, but really, again, just appreciating what you had to go through to receive that blessing, receive that outcome, because you earned it, right? And maybe you had some help, and I think that lyric is really powerful in that nature. So I appreciate you pointing that one out.
Yeah, you
And
hit the nail on the head with that one, man,
yeah.
because I'm very much like to the next thing. Like
Hmm.
I have to be like extremely intentional to be present in the moment because like I am very much like, oh, I have something to do. I have the next thing or I have this lined up or whatever the case is. So like whether it's to look at gratitude and you just don't let those moments slip. It's something as simple as like even I have a 10-year-old and I have a 4-month old. So I literally know that at some point, like it's like this baby glow is gonna like go away or something like that, right? But it's like
Hmm.
little lyrics like that. That's like, no, dude, like look at that, man. That's amazing. And that's again, it's relative, right? It could be anything.
No, you're absolutely right. And um I think it's really powerful to be able to go from, it's a sign of maturity, right? To be able to go from, I have to go and get and fight and win and all these different things, to just be like, you know what? I can appreciate not only me, but the others around, right? Because for everything that you're doing and crushing and killing, somebody's losing something, right?
Mhm.
And so often the people closest to us who are dealing with our success, and dealing with our wins, and because they have to deal with that tunnel with us, right? And they may not
Yep.
be reaping the benefits the same way, because there's a certain, like, emotional gratification, right, to like getting the thing, beating the thing, and all that kind of stuff. And for those who are following us, or who we're you know responsible for or whatnot, they can appreciate the outcome, but not the way we can, right?
Yep.
So there's a level of just taking some time to be intentional and not moving on, without at least appreciating yourself and them. So
Mhm.
I definitely appreciate that aspect. Um, so last question on Miracle. Um, and I think we probably hit it a little bit, but how does that song or that lyric continue to play a place in your day-to-day life, or in what you do and how you live?
So I'll go to the lyric. Excellent question again, man. It says part of the chorus is I can barely count all of these miracles. I cannot be stuck on how it didn't go.
Mm,
I just count on you and be like 1, 2, 5, 10, and again, yeah, I'm wildin'. I can't. I keep on counting all these miracles.
mm.
Granted, I highly suggest you listen to the song. Their version
Yeah.
of it's way better than mine. But it was crazy
Disclaimer,
because it
way
was
better.
like, yeah, yeah. I wasn't even gonna try and sing it. That'd have been embarrassing. But like it's crazy because like those are literally the words. Like, because if I start to think of all of the things that have happened, right? Like things I take advantage of, right? Like or like I neglect. Like I leave my home and I just automatically assume I'm gonna come home.
Mhm,
Right. So like stepping through the door is such a norm that I don't realize that like what I wonder what the statistics are for me leaving, potentially get into a car crash on the way to and from
mhm,
work at a high travel time during middle of the day or high morning time, right? Like the statistics
mhm,
probably aren't in my favor, right? Let alone any sort of accident, let alone a fatal accident. But like it's
mhm,
super easy because like all of us when we leave, like we don't think about potentially not coming home. All of us when we sleep, we don't think about potentially not waking up, you
mhm,
know consuming food, right? Like how do I know that the food is good in my, whether it's in my home or out in public or anything,
mhm,
anything, anything, or just take advantage of the fact that like the crazy things that are going on in the world. And for the most part, like, we're all pretty safe over here in the West. So
Mhm.
like when he says I can barely count all these miracles, if I were to sit down and truly just be grateful for the things that I have, like
Mhm.
I have the world's answers in my pocket. You know what I mean? Like if I have a question, I literally have an answer. Like
Mhm.
I'm talking to my very good friend who lives on the opposite end of the world as we just openly discuss like a topic that we both enjoy. Like I'd run out. Like my brain
Yeah.
would shut down before I literally hit the cap of whatever the amount of miracles that are happening. Right.
Wow.
So that plays into my day-to-day life. Right. And then he immediately follows it up with saying, I cannot be stuck on how it didn't go. Because
Mhm.
like, yeah, I can express all this gratitude, but at the same time, like, am I always winning? No,
No.
I'm absolutely not always winning, but that's
Mhm.
okay. Because again, if I look at the scales and the things that are going my way versus not going my way, chances are the things that are going my way significantly outweigh the ones that aren't,
Man.
so just like literally those two lines back to back, just saying I can't even count all the miracles, right? And
Mhm.
then for him to follow it up with like, but I also he's expressing gratitude in failure or loss or whatever however you
Mhm.
want to look at it, like that plays like directly into my day-to-day life.
Yeah. No, it's a very pointed response, and I appreciate it, man. And I would say that, when you talk about that infinite number of blessings, part of it's mentality,
Hmm.
right? Part
No,
of it is
absolutely.
like, because you just said, am I always winning? No. And my immediate response, and is no, right? But immediately after, I'm thinking, but even when you're losing, you're winning. You're learning something. You're building something. You're getting better. And Jay-Z, has a line: "A loss ain't a loss; it's a blessing." Or excuse me, a
Yep.
loss ain't a loss; it's a lesson. Excuse me. Um, and that to me has been one of those things that really, well, it really stuck up when you said it, is um because we have infinite reasons to be grateful. And I think that what it does is it helps create a much more pleasant disposition, right? um
Hmm.
and I think it creates a level of ownership, right? And we can talk about all the ways ownership is important in life, but and how maybe a lack of ownership kind of leads to some of those challenges we see around. But what I'll also say about ownership is, like when you're grateful for the house you have, the car you drive, the family that you love, it makes me want to preserve that more. It makes me want to take care of that more and pour into it more, because I'm grateful for it. And by not taking care of those things, I am now showing a lack of gratefulness, a lack of grace, and neglect almost, right? And so, to that same point, the way, gratitude kind of crops up for me in that is just being present, being intentional, being thoughtful, and bringing that to those around me, right? And owning the space that I'm grateful to have. Um, and so I just appreciate us kind of touching on that song. Um, Love to switch gears on to the next one, unless you have any closing thoughts on Miracle.
No, man, I think we kind of covered it all. And like I said, hey, if you haven't heard of the song, check it out. Miracles by KB and Lecrae. You won't be disappointed.
There we go. Yeah, I mean, even as somebody who's not as faith-based as you, when I heard the song, I was like, yo, this is tough, you know what I mean? And so lyrics are lyrics, man. Rhymes
Yep.
rhymes resonate no matter what form
Yep.
they come in.
Facts.
Um so second song, right? Second song, probably a little bit more familiar to people, if they're into that kind of thing, which is Winner by Jamie Foxx and T.I. and Justin Timberlake. Um so that's a lot, already we've spanned a gamut, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, what compelled you to share that song with me?
Oh man. Just another situation. It's so in depth, right? Like if you just take a second, you think about it. Like we all grew up with music. We have accessible. We've had iPods, or I mean, you and I go back cassette tape, CD players,
Mhm.
Walkmans, right?
Yeah,
If you had the
Walkmans.
no skip, you was that dude. You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
yeah, yeah. It's still Skip though.
Yeah, it's still skip. Sony with like it had like the handle thing over it. But
Mhm,
yeah, no,
mhm.
like So we grew up with like some form of portable music, right? So um I've always viewed it as it can get you hype and get you through a moment. It can, and that's the concept. That's what you're bringing out. So
Mhm.
this this actually is a new one. Like this one's like a month. The song itself is it's new to me simply because I even said, right, I said, hey, like when I do something, like I have to stop and take a moment to appreciate it because I'm on to the next thing. And a lot
Mhm.
of people think that's great. They're like, oh, he's doing this, he's got this going on. And it's so easy to get lost in all that, right? Or when you take a loss, or when people view you a certain way,
Mhm.
like, man, Kyle, like I don't know how you do this, or I don't know how you do that. And like half the time I'm thinking, me either. you know? And I know the classic like line of like imposter syndrome and blah blah blah. But
Mhm.
like when you're really doing things that you've never done before, you have to literally do things you've never done before. Say
Mhm.
things, read things, try things. And I just found myself the last, couple months in a space that I'm just completely lost.
Mm.
It's a passion of mine. It's something that I'm building, and I see it being something. I mean, it's in the fitness space, and as you stated, like you were kind enough to call me, an athlete of sorts, but
Mhm.
um, just I'm out of my comfort zone. I know certain things are relatively necessary that I don't care for.
Mhm.
So there's a lot of self doubt and a lot of kind of like uh I don't want to like corny to say like mountains to climb, but there's like these things that you have to do, achieve, try, whatever, right?
Mhm.
And I was like, man, do I really like am I about this like in the way that I want to do
Mhm.
it? And I kind of had a moment like I don't know if you're listening to this and you don't talk to yourself, you might want to go get checked out because I used to think I had to get checked out because I did talk to myself.
Mhm. Mhm.
But I was in one of those headspaces, and you're just like, bro, is this me? Is this what I should be doing? Is this,
Mhm.
is this what I want? Whatever. And guilty pleasure of mine, Timberland is one of my all-time favorite producers, and then Justin Timberlake Timberland combo, in my opinion, in pop culture is probably at least I would say to me number one, but I'm definitely putting in top three. And that's
Okay.
mostly because
Fair.
like he's one of the few that stuck with the same producer as opposed to have like multiple producers, right? Like
Yeah.
there are plenty of good producers out there, great producers out there. Some you could even argue are better than Timberland. But that duo to me is like good luck. Like
Yeah.
who's even close might be like Black Eyed Peas technically because you have to count Will I Am, but like no one's that
Mm.
consistent in their catalog with the same producer because you use a variety of producers for
Yeah.
albums now.
Yeah.
That's why it's
Okay.
a very specific niche is what I gave them. Like
Yeah, I mean, because
those
I, 'cause
two.
I think Timberland, man, and Missy is like you
Oh yeah,
can't
yeah, yeah,
miss.
yeah, yeah.
So I mean, Timberland is pretty tough. You know what I mean?
That's what I was saying. Pop, right? Justin Timberlake
Right.
and Timberland are pop, but yeah, I
Yeah.
think
No,
any
that's
duo with Timberland is a dub, and it'll be hard pressed to convince me otherwise. But
yeah.
yeah,
Fair.
so I'm a sucker for Timberland beat. You throw Justin Timberlake on there, is it's gonna be fire.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I had to get some of that swag, man. Like I had to get some of that, like remind myself like who
Mm-hmm.
the hell I am, like
Mm-hmm.
and it wasn't even on some big dog or some like chest out. It was literally like from pull myself up from the mud type, like
Yeah. Yeah.
you may not have done this thing, but you have done plenty of things. You may
Right.
not know this thing, but you've learned plenty of things.
Mm-hmm.
Because I really was like I was doubting, and
Mm-hmm.
like, and it's not even the whole song, which ironically Ti actually just the first song I think he did after he got out of prison, and he mentions
Mm.
that. So that's like his kind of come out of the mud. So like ironically, Phoenix rises from the ashes. But
Okay.
like to me,
Okay.
like the chorus just like it hit, man, it hit because
Yeah.
it was like, yo, Kyle, like remember who the hell you are, dude. Like
Right.
remember
Ooh.
what you're capable of. Like
Yes.
it you may not understand, you may not see, and you may not know what the end product is, but it's you have
Mm-hmm.
control over it. If it fails, it's your fault. There's power
Mm.
in that though. Like it's scary, right? Accountability is scary, but like on the
Yeah.
other side of accountability, like it has the potential to be equally as amazing on the opposite side of it, assuming you leverage it correctly. So like
Yeah.
this was literally on some like I said it wasn't like boss status type stuff, but it really was. It was like there's man like
Talk to
Michael
us.
Jackson man in the mirror moment of like, bro,
Yeah.
who the hell, like, who are you, dude? Like, what
Yeah.
are you talking about? Like, what
Cut
are
it
you
out.
doing? Yeah,
Yeah.
stop. Like I was literally like verbally like slapping myself.
Yeah.
And then like
No.
so one of my daily listens, this made it to my workout playlist, I guess, was
Mhm.
like, yo, just remind yourself who the hell you are. And
Mhm.
yes, the beat's nice and the drums hit and Justin Timberlake sounds awesome and
Mhm.
Jamie Foxx equally does as well in the chorus, right? Like,
Mhm.
and Ti has a nice verse, but
Yeah.
like that, the chorus, like, just remember who the hell you are. You're a winner was like
That's wild.
the whole purpose of the song.
So I'm gonna definitely hop into that. Let me take a pause on the recorder real quick. I gotta check something out. All right, but I'm
All
gonna
right.
hit that because hold on.
2, 1. Awesome. Hey, so the immediately the first thing that pops out, man, because for one we were talking about, uh kind of the topic that we agreed on as far as this song speaking to is being in the flow state, right? Um and I couldn't find a better term to kind of like encapsulate what that meant, right? Being in the flow state, like it sounds like it didn't quite hit, but like you said, remembering who you are. Um, and I haven't put it up yet. Again, just moved in, but I have a plaque made by Nadine Pope, and on
Mm.
that plaque, it has a couple of things that I was known for saying at at least amongst the crew, right? Um, and one was bars, of course. um, the second one is the man on the mountaintop didn't just fall there, and I got that from you, right? And so it's an interesting concept, that the man on the mountaintop didn't just fall there, because when you are seemingly at the bottom of the mountain, right? And you look up, it's kind of almost like we were talking about earlier, but you look up and there's more mountain to go. Sometimes it is helpful to look back at the mountain you've already summited and say, like,
Mhm.
you've done this before. You know what I mean? Like, you didn't just fall here. You know what I mean? There was something that you were able to do, and that you probably had struggle with, and you probably had, again, all these different emotions, feelings, and things like that. But you can do this. You've proven it,
Mhm.
right? And this thing that you're doing couldn't be as hard as that thing, right? No matter what it is, right? It's an interesting way, especially when you appreciate um just where you've been at, right? And what you've done, what you're doing, um, to be able to say, like, I can keep going, I can do this again, I can, even if it's a whole different apparatus or a whole different challenge, you can say, you know what, I drew on this, right? Um, these are the things I did. Like you said, I don't care for certain aspects of what's required of me, but I have been here before, right? I can guarantee you nobody liked basic training until basic training was over. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And then some of us were we did it 2 times again. You know what I mean? So there's an aspect of really looking at it and being reminded that, like, you are hot when you need to be hot, and when you're tapped in and you're dialed in, and there's nothing that's going to stop you. And like you said before, like, for anybody coming behind me, good luck. So that's what I experienced listening to that, was just feeling like, okay, like, I'm in it. And like, the beat drop on Timberland, of course, is crazy.
Yeah.
Ti did his, he came in smooth, but of course JT it's a vibe, right? Like you said, it may not
Yeah.
even be the whole song. The vibe is just like, I'm in it, like, let's go, who's stopping me, man? And that's what I experienced. But what is your experience with this song, especially, like, now?
Well, so I feel like, most of us are. Well, when you and I feel like when you and I speak, we actually like go through our developed thoughts, right? And I
Mhm.
challenge people to actually do that, because, like, on one hand, we have that phrase that you and I have both said, right? Like, the man on the mountaintop didn't just fall there. And I always say things are relative, right? Not
Mhm.
everything is black and white. because I'll have a conversation with a different person in a different state. Let's like state of life, let's say, right? Resonated because it's true regardless. But also, like, the way I view it is the same way you just said it. To me, the top of one mountain is the bottom of the next, because I firmly believe, like, it is your responsibility to become capable of more, because once you, the individual, are good, you are absolutely responsible for those around you, right? Especially us as men, fathers, husbands, right? Like,
Yeah.
I need to absolutely become more capable because I have more things that are going to come along in life. And when I struggle, I remind myself, right? Like, I didn't just get here, dude. But when I'm feeling myself, I go, no, 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 no. Next thing. Like, so there's like, I know people love saying the word balance. I don't really view it that way. It's like there's indicators, right? Feeling a certain way is going to trigger the thought for whatever the next comment or thought is going to be. If I'm feeling myself, whoa, hold up. You got work to do. If I'm down on myself, hold up. Like, you've done the thing, right? Like, action over everything. So if and I think that's where people get caught up, is it's when I can look behind me and be like, no, no, that's my mountain of proof, right? But it's the people that are
Ooh.
all this,
Yeah.
right, that don't have the mountain of proof. They'd be like, hold up, oh, you ain't got nothing.
Remember what I did?
That's why,
Yeah.
that's why you feel the way you feel, right? Like, because when I reach into my cookie jar, I'm pulling out cookies. You know what I'm saying? Like, we ain't got no crumble, we ain't got no crumbs, we're not coming out empty-handed. I have memory after memory after memory, or achievement or thought or action, you know, and so, like, to me, it's not. I hate when people, like, I've disliked using the word balance
Yeah.
because it's not really like that. But
No.
like, you know, like, so in this case, I'm like, with this song specifically, again, I'll speak the lyrics. Highly recommend you check out the song, because I feel like I can't miss. I know they want me to fall. Who wants you to fall, right? Like, are people actively thinking, Kyle, I hope you fail? No, we all have so much going on. No one's thinking about me.
Right. Right.
But the resistance, like, a new skill set I'm trying to develop, I'm going to meet resistance. The resistance wants me to fall, because on the other side of resistance is going to be achievement, new skill set, new mindset, whatever.
Yeah.
Right. But ain't nothing bigger than this. So just pass me the ball. Send it to me.
Hey, let's
Bring it my
go.
way. Right.
Yes.
And then he says, you know, because you're looking at a winner. I can't miss, can't lose, can't miss, because you're looking at a winner, because I'm a winner. Yeah, I'm a winner. So he's like, now he's proclaiming, like, y'all know what's going on. And then he reminds him, so he takes a moment to remind himself what's going on. So like again, great song. The chorus to me just hits, because it was coming at a moment of like, Kyle, remember who the hell you are.
Yeah.
Right. Like, because and now I'll even take a moment to pair the two. If I am so blessed, right? Like, if I am so, if I have been given gifts, if I have been given opportunity, if I have been expressing gratitude, right? Like, you know, a line that I tell people when I have an in-depth conversation like this is like, I'm pretty sure my ancestors didn't go through all that nonsense for me to be mediocre.
Oh.
Right?
Oh,
Like,
don't hurt them.
how
Don't
many
hurt them.
how many plagues did they survive? How many wars did they survive? Like, and how far do you want to go back, right? Like,
Yeah.
you know, how far do you want to go back? You could just take it 50, 60-year history, right? Like, all of our, like, we were brought to this point, right?
Yeah.
So like, it's just it's these moments, and you know, not everybody's going to get motivated like me, not everybody's going to think like me. I simply give descriptions, not prescriptions. I'm describing my thought process, and I just challenge you to have your own, and just challenge you to take a second and be in deep thought, develop that, find if it's truly something you resonate, right? Because like, on one hand, I had a song that is faith-based, but that still applies regardless. This one has nothing to do with faith. This is just like tapping myself on the shoulder and be like, bro, get after it. Like, what the hell are you doing?
No,
You know, so like, and those two don't even go hand in hand, but I can, you know, I can pair the two should I choose to, but like, it's because on one hand, I struggle to express gratitude, and I found a means, right? Like, I know if I do the thing, in this case, gratitude, I'm going to be forced to be grateful. Right. And then when I'm down and out, if I just remind myself, because the proof is there. Now, if it's not there, I recommend you action over everything and develop some proof. But the proof is there. And it may not be this thing, it may not be right now. But when just like you, when you've done a thing, it's a matter of time. It's a matter of, if success is a formula and everything's set into place, like you said, like I already said, good luck, because head down, chest up, we're going to get after it. We're going to do it. action over everything, because I can do this. I'm about this life.
Yeah. Yeah. No, there's so many great parts of what you hit there, man. And it's interesting, right? Because in my head, I'm like, okay, they're banging around. I'm like, all right, I'm gonna hit him as soon as he gets done, and then I forget them all, right? Um,
My
but
bad.
no, no, it's good. It's good. It's good. It's on me, right? It's the anticipation of being on, right? But I'd say one of the things that really sticks out to me on that is when we talk about developed thoughts. Earlier you mentioned if you don't talk to yourself, right, go get checked, right? And I know that's in jest, so nobody come at us, right? But I found out recently that there are people who don't have that internal voice. And so I think that's an interesting concept of, like, what advice would you give to somebody who doesn't have that internal voice of, either do better, or, what are you doing, or, you're doing great. If there's not that internal friend giving you that course correction, what advice do you give them?
Oh man, I got plenty of tricks and tips. So I think by now most people understand that you learn in a multitude of ways,
Hmm.
right? So look, man, I don't mind sharing. You know me, I'm an open book. This right here, these are mindset mastery cards right here, located on my desk. Right, these actually have to do. This specific deck has to do with wealth
Hmm.
and changing your relationship with money. So like what you do is you simply take the card, you read it out loud 3 times a day, right?
Hmm.
And through verbal execution, you can shift your ideas and thoughts on a certain topic, right? View of
Hmm.
yourself, view of money, view of relationships, things like that. So this one, I don't need an internal voice, right? Like I'll read it if you don't if you don't mind.
Go
It
ahead.
says,
Yeah.
take every thought captive. We have 60,000 thoughts a day, and 93% of those are the same thoughts as yesterday.
Hmm.
And it tells you where to look up for it. Wonder why these things aren't changing? Seeds to succeed will reap a new harvest, bear new fruit, and change your thought life. Are you ready to change what you want to see in the world? Why declare success, whether it be with finances and my relationship with money, because that could be weird for some people, or different, or just misunderstand or not understand,
Hmm.
or just success in relationships, success in business, success in professional life. I carry this one of these, or I have probably 3 or 4 more within reach. I literally have, look, another one right here, right? Where I put my day up for review. So I'll write things out. Again, another form of learning: reading, writing, listening, doing, right?
Hmm.
Like there's just I could go all day on different recommendations, right? Earlier I
Hmm.
showed you guys a book, right? So again, I'm reading someone else's experiences. Now I can avoid potential failures and pitfalls and learn lessons from them, right?
Hmm.
And like I think we misunderstand, right? Like a book is $7 to $15, let's say. So I could learn potentially from one of the greatest people to ever do a thing.
Hmm.
And it's a human, good as them, but you mean I have similar capacities as them to do a similar thing in that same space? And it becomes more real because it's tangible and I'm seeing it, feeling it, and reading it with my own eyes.
Yeah.
So again, right, like I like I said earlier, I try to give descriptions, not prescriptions, because what worked for me doesn't work for thee, right? Like,
Right.
but it's simply a framework, right? Do you need to write it? Like I've done post-its on my mirror. I've done marker on my mirror when I'm shaving in the morning and I'm reading the
Hmm.
thing, right? There's a there's I like Machiavelli motivation on YouTube. Sometimes I'll listen to those before I go to the gym. No different than motivational things like I'll have to shoot you when I get off of this, a reminder of one of my favorite videos. But it's just like the listening of it, the seeing it, right? Like think about how much we already consume.
Hmm.
Luckily we have the ability to control it, right? Like you can control your algorithm in social media. I can control what I write. I can control what I read for the most part.
Right.
So I do my best to lean towards beneficial things. Doesn't
Hmm.
mean I don't like memes. I like memes better than, like, just like any other guy, right? They're
Yeah.
hilarious.
Yes.
But like if I don't have 1,000 mentors, but I could potentially have access to 1,000 different authors that, whether or
Hmm.
not they know that I exist, or have the capacity to mentor me.
Hmm.
So just because you may not have that internal voice, or even if you do and yours just is just filled with self-doubt, like
Hmm.
drown it out, right? So if you don't have the voice, draw it out, right?
Hmm.
Paper, pen, audio, visual. If your
Hmm.
voice is a negative voice, drown it out with
Right.
proof, with belief, with faith, with gratitude, right? Like we all have that, right? You have the light and the dark within you, right? The theory, I think it's like a Japanese story, that the story of the two wolves, and they're both chained up. Which one's going to grow? The one you feed, right? So I could feed the light, which is gratitude, love, peace, grace, happiness, joy, right? And I could feed anxiety, depression, and whatever, right? And whatever one's going to manifest through you is the one that you decide to feed.
No.
If I'm doom scrolling Instagram and TikTok and I'm consuming all things that make me feel all bad inside, and then later on I want to claim that I have anxiety and depression, it's like, well,
Right.
yeah, of course. Like if I had 100 hours, 200 hours a week of that type of stuff versus the opposite.
Right.
And if you're listening to this and you think I'm absolutely crazy, give it a shot. What do you have to lose?
Yeah. No, we are 100% what we consume. And I'm gonna just point out a bar that you just dropped. I don't know if it's already established or if you just came up with it right now, but when it comes to self-talk, either draw it out or drown it out. That's crazy, right? Like,
That was not intentional. I need to write that down.
hey, look. Hey, so there we go. Here on Rhymes That Resonate, right? My man just dropped the craziest bar, blending action, rhymes, and self, right? If when it comes to your self-talk, you gotta draw it out or drown it out, because it can be negative, right? It can be harmful, and it's only fed and grown by what we consume. And so as we're consuming um these harmful things, these hurtful things, we're saying those things to our head, into our brains, and our thoughts become those actions, and we create these self-fulfilling prophecies of failure. And so, I think, just going back to the original one you blessed us with, which is action over everything. Sometimes it's good to just say, you know what, forget the reading, forget the self-talk, forget the doom scrolling and how to get rich quick on Instagram. Like, let me go do something, right? Something different, something extra, right? And another thing that I wanted to touch on is, you mentioned it's not a balance. And I 1000% agree, it's not a balance. It's far from a balance. And I came across this from a person in jiu-jitsu, that was passed down from a person in jiu-jitsu, right? You got green lights and you got red lights, right? And those green lights, again, an indicator, right? In actual application of life, it's an indicator to go, where a red light is an indicator to stop. And in the context, it's, when you are in a bad position, or an unfavorable body position, um, you can waste all of your, and maybe even a favorable one, and that's maybe even a favorable one, right? Is when you are in those positions and you don't, you know approach it the correct way, or a meaningful, impactful way that's going to be advantageous to you. um, you're going to be wasting a lot of energy, and that loss of energy and that loss of intention will likely lead to you being put in a worse position, or losing. Um,
Yeah.
and of course, learning, but we don't always want to just learn. Winning is good
Yeah.
too. Like, I don't want to live my whole life as just a learner, right? Lifelong learning
Yeah.
means different things, right? But to that same point is, when you have the good chest pressure, you have the arm isolated, it's green light time. You got to go, because you may not get that opportunity again to hit the gas, and and in the fight, or win the thing, or come through the challenge, right? So I agree that it's not a balance. It is understanding what the indicators are, and sometimes you got to slow your roll. Sometimes you got to check yourself, and if you don't, we talked about it before, if you don't have that ability to do it yourself, um, drawing it out, or drowning it out, right? And sometimes, like we talked about in our previous conversation, having somebody there who you trust, who can tell you, hey man, you need to hit the big old timeout, and take 30 seconds on the sideline, right? Or, hey, what are you doing? Go back in there and get focused. And I think that's really what this song does. It's a reminder, like, if you ever look around and you're not grateful because you're not winning, um and you don't feel like you can win anymore, something like this song, Winner, may be the thing you need to spin and go for a jog, go for a swim, or start journaling, whatever the case may be. And that's kind of what I interpreted from what you shared. And what are your thoughts on that?
No, you hit the nail on the head. First, I want to say if you hear my son in the background, he just fresh off a nap, so I apologize if you heard him. But
Hey, let's
um,
go. Wake up. Well, the sunshine says hello or whatnot.
yeah, right. um, but yeah, no, I think you hit the nail on the head, man. I think people underestimate just what that next step is. Just that there's a man. Actually, I'm gonna steal this from a book I read my son. It's the fox, the mouse, and the mole, or something like that.
Mhm.
And there's a man. You talk about bars. There's a bar in this book, right? And it's a kid's book. It's like it's
Okay.
a small chapter book. And I was reading to my son before bed, like maybe a year or two. These three characters, a fox, a mole, and a rat, or something, or a mouse, they're going. There's a portion of the book they're making it through a forest, right? And the horse freezes because obviously he's carrying everybody, right? And one of the characters says to him, like, "Hey, what are you doing?" He's like, "Oh, I don't know what to do. I can't see." And it's a foggy forest or something. And I could be butchering this, but this is my version of it.
We're following it. Let's go.
Yeah. So, but the one of the next step, and he's like, "But I don't know what to do. I can't see. I'm not sure. I don't want to mess up. I don't want to." And he's like, "Sometimes the only thing you can do is take the next step." And I
Mm,
think, instead of worrying about the home run, right? There's Hall of Famers making it to first base, second base, right? So it's like,
mhm,
instead of looking for this grandiose thing, whether it's within the music that we listen to, the media we consume, these big grandiose acts of whatever you want to call them, you truly underestimate like that one thing. The artist, the whole premise of this, right? Bars, rhymes that resonate. That artist was doubted. That artist had to develop a skill set. That artist had
mhm,
to do things in the business world, in the music industry, or whatever, right? That like we may never even know of,
mhm,
but they didn't come out of the womb making, just track after track after track. They may have been more inclined than
mhm,
you and I. They may have a more natural set of skills when it comes to that thing, but they too just did the next thing. They didn't just drop one album, they dropped the next album. They didn't just write one song, they wrote the next song.
mhm,
Most people don't even know, and I learned this probably about a decade ago, but like, for example, Chris Brown drops an 18 song album. He made probably 70 songs.
mhm,
You know what I mean? So like, we are so struck by these, like I said, like a home run, that like we underestimate what a base hit does,
mhm,
you know? And I think that's like what we're both trying to say here is that's what action over everything is.
mhm.
It can become a home run. I still need to be at the plate, man.
All right.
Like, I still need to be the man in the arena.
Yeah. No, I'm gonna take a step back, right? Because you said home not home but um Hall of Famers, right, are still getting base runs, right? Um and even with the Chris Brown alliteration, making 70 to drop 18. And one of the things that I heard years ago that I think just really speaks to that is we don't see the work behind the scenes that makes it look easy, right? So when I
Mhm.
think about, those things that externally are really impressive, right? Like Tom Brady isn't the GOAT because, he decides to play Madden on the weekends or he sleeps all day. You know what I mean? Like he's the GOAT because he was relentless in his pursuit of excellence. I have this conversation with my buddy recently about Kobe Bryant, right? Um, Unpopular opinion, Kobe, I don't think has the stats to be considered the GOAT, right? Like I think though he is a goat. He's like a goat for me, right? Like because of his relentless pursuit of excellence, right? Like there's
Mhm.
quotes and examples and all that kind of stuff of his mentality, the Mamba mentality when it comes to approaching things, and it was all about being great at all times, right? But not because he was born that way, but because he pursued it, because he went after it and he worked on it, he crafted it, and he trusted himself because of that. And I think that that alone is why he really resonates with me, right? Like, talking about rhymes that resonate, just in general, words that resonate. He talks about not wanting to pass to his teammates because he's been in the gym with them, or he's been in the gym and they weren't there. Like, that's that's a line of thinking, man. That's a line of just true pressure, when it comes to what you expect from yourself, let alone from others. You know what I mean? So, when I think about what you just said about, Hall of Famers hitting home runs, or versus getting on base, like Kobe's bricked it. You know what I mean? Like,
Hmm.
like, but you wasn't with me shooting in the gym. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like, there's so
that's a
many.
bar.
That's a bar. Hey, give it to Drizzy. You know what I mean? But at the end of the day, man, I think it's just really important to appreciate, just the importance of getting after it and not looking for the glory that comes with the work, and just doing the work.
Yeah, and this will be my final thought on this, obviously, unless you have something else. But like, I think we undervalue that, and we overvalue the not doing it. Like, and I'm not even going to touch the topic of victim mentality. That's a conversation for another day.
Okay.
But inaction, right? Like,
Hmm.
people don't understand the cost of inaction, right? So I can demonize the person doing the thing. Oh, look at
Hmm.
them. Look at, if I had that opportunity, if I could, whatever, right? To do all that and hopefully the people around you like kind of politely tell you to shut up, or maybe not so politely tell you to shut up.
Yeah.
But it costs zero to do that.
Hmm.
It costs nothing, right? I can be justified in my opinion because I now have many public forums to where I can say it. And a lot of times people will resonate with that because the people out there doing it aren't on those platforms
Hmm.
and nor do they feel the need or care to defend themselves,
Hmm.
right? So like, it's just, if they undervalue just the simple wins that lead to the ultimate victory, and
Hmm.
they overvalue justifying why they didn't do it. To not do something is zero. To do something
Hmm.
is above zero. So to be at
Hmm.
zero, it costs you nothing. It requires you to do nothing. You didn't learn, you didn't study, you didn't try, you didn't cry, you didn't bleed, right? But yet, if I express that opinion and hell, two people online agree with it, I'm right.
Hmm.
But that same person undervalues that next step, which is like putting on the running shoes, which
Hmm.
is watching a different show, which is reading a page in a book. Well, I don't like
Hmm.
reading. Well, no one does. You know what I'm saying? But like, there's information in there, right?
Right.
But like, or I mean, I'm sure there's people that enjoy reading, but like,
So yeah.
just simple things. Like, I'm not gonna
Right.
give you a 500-page book, man. Like, I just gave you a profound quote that has manifested itself in my life from a book that I read to my son 2 years ago, right?
Yeah.
Because knowledge is everywhere. So if I demonize you, which requires literally zero effort, but it also gives me the free pass. Like, now
Hmm.
I'm not going to try. So it's really sad to see, because I look at people that achieve things, and like, whether it's you, a friend of mine crushing, it's like, oh, I got more to do, right? Like,
Hmm.
there's a level that we're at, right? We expect something from each other, and it's not who's better than. It's like, no, 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 let's both get after it,
Hmm.
right? So, and that's just, it's unfortunate to see, and I just didn't want that part to go unsaid. Like,
Yeah.
if you're sitting here challenging what we're saying, I appreciate that, and I'd love to have a conversation with you. I don't need
Mhm.
everybody to agree with me, but again, like, what do you have to lose? Like, what do you have to lose?
Yeah. Well, the challenge in that is, like, if you challenge somebody, cool, but you got to be willing to stand on that and have that discussion versus, uh, you know, what the internet has allowed us to do, which is have anonymous opinions, right?
Hmm.
Like, if you're everybody has an opinion, that's cool. If you're willing to share it, that's cool. But we could be able to have a discourse, and I think that's where we, not going to get too meta on this, but, like, from a social commentary kind of standpoint, like, being able to have a discourse. um you could disagree with me all day, you could hate everything I stand on and I'm about, but if we can't um have a discourse about it, we can never find that place where coexistence is capable, right? And everybody, and I don't like to use absolutes, so it seems like one of the most divisive things you can do right now is remain neutral, right?
Hmm.
Like, you have to have an opinion. It has to be the black or the white, and it's an unfair proposition for us as humans, when ultimately, like, if you're doing your thing, like, it really doesn't affect me, right?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah, like
whether
at
you're
all. Like,
at all.
brother, think about it. Like, I'm sure people can easily flip this, but
Hmm.
like, think about this concept. You and I are both essentially saying to anybody listening, try the thing, see what happens, give it a shot. Versus the alternative, which is like, ah, you'll never make it, you can't do
Hmm.
it. They want you to fall. Who's they? No one knows.
Who are
Right?
they?
Yeah, yeah, right. Like, so, and I, to me, that's just, it's comical. But that's why I say, like, hey, book it, hit Chris up, get my information, we'll swap, we'll
Mhm.
talk. I don't mind. But again, I challenge you, like, at least you have someone that doesn't even know you in your corner saying, like, I'm almost positive you can do it. Like, I'm almost,
That's
now
it.
you may not be the best. Is like a course curriculum that eventually leads to brain surgeon, right? And I'm
Mhm.
pretty sure if you went to school and you had the right credentials and you passed the exams and then you had your time as an understudy and so on and so forth, you can potentially achieve the thing. And
Mhm.
obviously, I'm going extreme on purpose.
Right.
Are you going to do it at all? That part is kind of up to you. Like,
Mhm. No, absolutely, man. Well, always an amazing time kicking it with you, man. I appreciate you, spending a whole lot more time than planned on getting this first episode rolling, um, and working through the challenges with me. But like you said, it's just amazing to have somebody in your corner, um, really rooting for you, right? And not through words, but through action, through time, through investment. So I appreciate you. I appreciate anyone who's decided to listen, or discovered this first episode, or you know uh hopefully shared it with their peoples. um but real quick, Kyle, can you do me a favor and just share your handles on social media with the people so they can find you?
oh yeah, absolutely. Well, first, Chris, thank you so much, man. This has been an absolute blessing. It's an honor, man. Like I said, like, we said action over everything. We talked about this not but 2 weeks ago. I doubt it was even over 2 weeks. And look at us, we're already you. I said, hey, book it, and we booked it. And guess
Yeah.
what? We record it. We're recording it, right? We're doing the thing, right? So, to all the listeners, he doesn't just talk the talk, he walks the walk, and I'm honored to help facilitate in any way that I can. I feel
Thank you.
like from this conversation I received more than I even potentially provided, right? Like, it just, I'm telling you, surround yourself with people that gas you up. There's so much hate, there's so much doubt, there's so much of so many different things that I'm not going to get into, right? Like, so
Mhm.
why would I even bother? Literally, I'm not
Mhm.
going to give those things light,
Mm.
right? Chris is an extremely good friend of mine. He does it. He does what he does through love, compassion, grace, and it provides him joy. And I'm not going to put words in his mouth, but I see it. I see it. It's manifested. He enjoys this topic. He enjoys this thing. He's passionate about it, and he's doing the thing. He's doing the thing, and that's ultimately, to me, what matters. But if you're looking for me, for
Well, thank
more
you.
potentially cool topics, at Kyle Fernandez, nutrition coach on all social media platforms, Reclaim Fit on YouTube. But yeah, just give it a search on Instagram. I'm currently following the Instagram for this podcast, so you can just find me there. But if you wanna have discourse, give me a follow. If you want some nutrition and fitness and training tips, I got you there too. Book recommendations, whatever you need. And if I can't help you, I'll point you in the right direction to somebody that can help you out. I promise.
Man, thank you so much, Kyle, for that. Appreciate your time. Appreciate anybody tuning in. This is you can find this podcast and all the clips that we're gonna generate, and any of the material soon to come merch, at Rhymes That Resonate podcast on Instagram. More social media coming soon. Again, appreciate y'all, and can't wait to drop this and hopefully see it grow, man. So thank you for your time.